Call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone here this evening, and we'll get right to business. Who did I call on last time to do the pledge?
Annie did it last time.
You want to do it, Bill?
Well, I did it, and then Annie did it. Have you?
I did it last time.
You did it?
Yeah.
Have you done
I'll do it. How about that?
How about Shannon?
Let's
We'll
make
start
this happen.
back with you and come back around.
All right, everybody ready?
Yep. Thank you. Okay, we have approval of the agenda. There's a couple of items. Shannon, I think you had one.
Yes, I'd like to pull ordinance 2021-43
Okay.
from consent.
All right, I'm going to put that as under old business. I don't know if it fits there, but anyway, I'm going to put it as B, police break room. And then, is that all you had?
Yes.
Okay. I want to add under new business C, East Wake Education Foundation golf ball drop. And then I want to add a closed session as item number 10. That's the only ones that I have. Anyone else have any changes? Okay, so then I'll call for approval of the agenda as amended.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we have the school recognition tonight. It's the Zebulon.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Could you specify your purpose?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to read that later. It's for personnel discussion as permitted by 143.318.1A6. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, sure. Okay, the school recognition this month is Zebulon GT Magnet Elementary School, and they again cannot be here this evening, but I'm going to read the blurb, if you will, that was written by their principal, and then we have these certificates to get to them at a later time. The student is Brad Orm, and Brad Orm is a hardworking student who has a thirst for knowledge. He soaks new information in like a sponge. He likes to help his mom do projects around the school, in particular with beautifying the outside of the school. Brad has a heart for service and helping others. He is very supportive of peers, and just today told another student how nice he looked with his new glasses. He is a sweet, compassionate, and thoughtful young man. And so the student this month again is Brad Orm, and I'd like to give him a round of applause. The teacher is Kamisha Minto, and Kamisha Minto is a wonderful and very kind teacher at Zebulon Gifted and Talented Magnet Elementary School. She always wears a smile on her face, and her voice even has a smile to it when she speaks. When one is around her, it is very apparent that she deeply cares not only for her first grade classroom students, but all of the students and staff at our school. She treats every student as an individual, and she recognizes and does her utmost to meet each student's unique needs. Secondly, she is very professional in her dealings with everyone, students, staff, and administrators. She embodies the kind of person with whom we enjoy spending time and working. Thirdly, she maintains a very positive attitude at all times, and she treats each of her students with great respect, even the students who frequently do not at first personally demonstrate the 2 R's, respect and responsibility. However, she is a profound model of the 2 R's, and in seeing her model the 2 R's, her students began to reflect them as well in their dealings with their classmates and their teachers. She is a master of her curriculum and teaching profession, and I proudly stand by my nomination of Kamisha Minto for the town's recognition honor. She rocks. All right, thank you. Public comment, do we have any?
We do not.
Okay, no public comment tonight. Next, we have adoption of the consent agenda as amended. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor? Thank you. Planning, Economic and Community Development, Business Retention and Expansion Agreement.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. The first of the planning items before you tonight is actually a minor modification to the agreement for the Chamber of Commerce to operate as our economic development arm, specifically in the context as it relates to the business retention and expansion program. The modifications were indicated that there was a clarification regarding what the scope of the program will be. Additionally, modification of the new president, Brandon McCraney, being listed as the signature. Otherwise, everything else is consistent with what was approved with the September meeting. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Question? Yes.
Yeah, on the back page, item number 4, where they report out quarterly, I'd also requested they be in the report be in writing as well as orally, just so we have a history of it.
Yes, we can make that modification.
Anything else? Okay, then I'll ask for a motion to adopt this business retention and expansion agreement as amended by staff and by Commissioner Laux.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. Other discussion? Yes, sir.
No discussion.
Okay. I thought you had another one. Okay. All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Text amendments, mass grading.
Stacy, can you drop the screen? Thank you. Making sure it's up. There we go. As you recall, last month there was a joint public hearing regarding 2 text amendments. Both of those were specific to conservation subdivisions. The first of the 2 were related to the how grading was going to be approved within conservation subdivisions. It is per section 6.2 that would regulate this. And as of right now, a developer could come in and essentially grade the majority of the site. A few locations that they would not be able to would be those that would be environmentally sensitive or those that would be required to be retained, such as stream buffers or perimeter buffers if it required the landscaping be maintained. With the changes and the intent of the conservation subdivision, however, it was to really preserve not only the natural vegetation, but also the topography of the land. As an example, our current regulations would allow something similar to what's on the screen right now, essentially allowing for total clearing of the site and making everything perfectly flat. That one tree in the middle is the last of the natural vegetation that was there before the development. Otherwise, everything has been wiped clear of the site before the homes went in. As proposed, the developer would only be allowed to clear the site where necessary for roadway installation or utility installation. And then when a development came in for the actual construction of the homes, they'd be able to get permits, building permits, which would authorize the excavation and clearing of the areas that would be specific for the construction of the home. One option that a builder does that they currently do is they'll come in and get a collection of lots right next to each other. That's what happens in most other municipalities that have similar regulations. That way they could clear those bank of lots. However, they would still have to retain some of the area, primarily in the backyard, to preserve that natural vegetation. The other areas, obviously, with the utility infrastructure where there's required storm drainage for stormwater control measures or SCMs, as well as the things such as pump stations, all of those areas would still be able to be cleared, but otherwise the site would retain its natural topography and much of its original vegetation. One thing that's important to note that is only, or this proposal is only for conservation subdivisions. Bungalow subdivisions as well as traditional subdivisions would not meet these particular restrictions, and they could still mass grade the site. Essentially, what we're looking at is something more along what you see on the screen, where it preserves a lot of the natural vegetation as well as the topography. The road on the left has a downward slope, where the road on the right has an upward slope. Under current regulations, they would be able to completely flatten this. That little bit of slope difference provides character as well as improves stormwater drainage because it follows the natural topography as opposed to pooling up within certain areas. The planning board did take action last Monday on this particular item and unanimously recommended approval, finding that it is consistent with section 2.2.20 of the UDO as well as the Zebulon Comprehensive Master Plan. I'm available if you have any questions. Otherwise, we do have a sample motion if you do choose to move forward to approve this amendment tonight.
Question? Motion?
I hereby make a motion to approve the proposed text amendments to section 6.2.4I. Okay, and section 6.2.5C, 4.A of the Town of Zebulon Unified Development Ordinance, finding the request is consistent with the intent of the Conservation Subdivision, section 2.220 of the UDO and the Zebulon Comprehensive Master Plan.
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. Okay. Sidewalks and conservation subdivision.
Once again, this was a joint public hearing at the last meeting. Nobody was present to speak in favor or against the request. This is amendment to section 6.8.1 of the UDO to require sidewalks to be on at least one side of the road within conservation subdivisions. Our current regulations do not require any sidewalks to be constructed as part of conservation subdivision. As an example, this is potentially what could be developed under the existing regulations, where folks would have to walk in the streets or on the grass areas of the public right-of-way, trying to stay out of other people's yards. The proposed regulations would still keep in mind an environmentally friendly context for a conservation subdivision and only require them to be located on one side of the street on local roads. The local roads is a designation of a category of hierarchy of different roads. It would, however, require them to be on both sides of arterial as well as collector roads because those have higher traffic volumes and it's not as easy to quickly cross the road in those locations.
But that portion's not a change, correct?
It's a clarification as opposed to a change. The text, I believe,
I thought that they are
part is not changed. It's just specifically notes on local roads,
Okay.
which by default would mean that'd be both sides for arterial and collector. The planning board last Monday did take action on this item, and once again unanimously recommended approval of the request, finding that's consistent with section 2.2.20 of the UDO, other UDO provisions that encourage sidewalks on both sides of the roads, as well as the 2030 strategic plan and the Zebulon comprehensive plan. I'm available if you have any questions, but I do have a simple motion if you do choose to move forward with approving the text amendment as drafted.
Question?
Well, I move to approve the proposed text amendments to section 6.8.1 of the Town of Zebulon Unified Development Ordinance, finding that the request is consistent with section 2.2.20 of the UDO, other UDO provisions, the 2030 strategic plan, and the Zebulon Comprehensive Master Plan.
Excuse me, can you include your ordinance number in your motion?
Sure.
It's 2021-45.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't make you
2021-45.
Okay, thank you. Second? Is there a
Second.
Okay. Other question? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next was the police break room, which was moved from page 24, which is in your consent agenda. It's 2021-43 ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, before I leave, do we need to amend the other motion to include the ordinance number for the first text amendment as well?
It didn't have the ordinance number in the motion. Could we redo that?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
You didn't have, the ordinance number wasn't referenced in the motion.
Okay, so that ordinance number was 2021-44. Who made that motion? I don't remember.
Ms.
Did
Beverly, and then,
you agree to
I
amend?
agree. Amend it.
Is there a second? Who seconded it?
Second.
Okay, so the motion is to amend the previously approved motion to add 2021-44. All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right, now we're down to police break room. It was page 24 again in your agenda item. Shannon?
Did you want a staff report or just want?
I wondered why she wanted to pull it from the consent, so.
So when we were first asked to approve monies for a warming kitchen for the police department, we were given a projected budget of $65,000, which was bid out after a design was created, and a $6,175 contingency was added in there. I need to really understand why you were not able to complete this project for the $65,000 that you asked for, and why you now need the extra almost $6,000 above and beyond the contingency.
Couple things. We did run into something in the design process. We did find a few things that we did not expect.
Such as?
Such as the plumbing configuration, tying the little pantry area to the bathroom. That piece was not modified during the original construction, and we were not aware of how that plumbing ran. It's going to take a little more work to complete that scope. Clearly, you know, we're just putting estimates out during the budget process. Once we get into the design process, we do get into a little more detail in regards to that. Our original design did have contingency associated with it. Unfortunately, our bids came in a little higher than we projected. You can see they range from $49,400 all the way up to $84,000. We had two bids that were fairly close to the $49,400 and the $49,900. We always put contingency in projects, and that's for unexpected things. When we open up that wall and peel back there, there's things that need to be changed. We go into a project hoping not to spend a dime of contingency. My goal for you at this project is not to spend contingency. I also feel like there's two other projects that we can, at the end of the year, recognize funding savings for that will actually cover this actual shortfall. So basically, contingency is for the unexpected. We never want to go into a project without some contingency, because we just can't see behind the wall and what things we may encourage. Even though we do the best planning and design we can, I promise you, there's always surprises. And so we need to be prepared to address those surprises, come up with engineering solutions, and move quickly to wrap up that project.
Well, I feel like, surprise, the plumbing wasn't where it was. That's what your contingency is for.
Yes,
Convince me otherwise.
The original contingency does not cover the bids. The problem is the bids come in higher than we were projecting. We were projecting a bid closer around $44,000, $45,000. Our lowest bid come in at $49,900. That's just the marketplace we are in. As you can see, there's a wide range of bids that we received. And at the end of the day, I hope I don't spend the money. That's my goal.
Any other questions?
I feel like you're asking for quite a bit here. And, I mean, the contingency is in there, but now you're saying that you need additional funds on top?
Basically, the budget that we have here, we basically have now broke it down, and now that we've got design numbers that actually under contract with, we actually have bid numbers which we under contract with now, and we have now narrowed down the appliances that we need to purchase there. We have then developed a new budget. Based off of that, we are showing that we're gonna be short on contingency, of about $5,000. Our normal contingency for a project like this is roughly around 15%. We have tried to keep this cost lower by lowering it to 12.5.
But it didn't make any difference because it still went over.
Yes, ma'am. That's because our bid's coming over at the end of the
I
day.
feel like we're doing something wonderful for the police department, but at the end of the day, it's $70,960 for a warming kitchen.
Yes, ma'am. Commercial construction is extremely expensive.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, other questions? Okay, the question before the board is whether to approve this budget under ordinance 2021-43 or to not approve it. What's your pleasure?
I move to not approve ordinance 2021-43.
Okay, is there a second to that? Okay, the motion fails due to the lack of a second. Is there another motion?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-43.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion?
Do we typically have such a wide range in bids where we're talking the lowest is almost half of what the highest is?
Unfortunately, in this market, that's what I've seen. I've seen that here recently on the last several bids we've done, from whether it's the chiller, the street paving project, and the West Vance Street storm drainage. I have seen as much as 50% variation in those bids. It's depending on where they're at in the market, how much work they have or not have. So right now, we are seeing a wide swing.
I feel like it's fiscally irresponsible for us to continue to go over budget for projects and to be paying for things above and beyond special stampings for sidewalks. I feel like this is the wrong environment, being in the midst of this pandemic, to be going above and beyond our budget.
Okay, other comments? All right, if not, the motion is on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion passes 4-1. Thank you, Chris. All right, planning under new business, Barrington consent agreement.
Once again, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Tonight, there's kind of a different type of procedure than what you're typically accustomed to. As you're aware, the Barrington subdivision is under construction. Some of the lots have been platted within phase one. However, during the early platting phases, it was discovered a discrepancy between what the special use conditions said and what the signed construction drawings allowed them to build. Phase one, as shown here, runs along Old Bun and is a collection of a combination of single-family, large lot dwellings. These would be paired or townhouse-style dwellings, as well as several other single-family dwellings along this street here, and then some townhomes in this section here. The location in question for tonight's consent agreement is this location here. Condition number 17 of the special use conditions required that the rear property line for these lots be set back at least 30 feet from Old Bun Road or Parks Village Road. Setback is a defined term in the planning industry. We have that definition in our Unified Development Ordinance, and it's described as the distance from a property line. It could be a front property line, rear property line. It depends upon what style of setback this is. In this context, it notes that the residential lot lines shall be set back from Old Bond Road, which in this context would be the edge of the right-of-way. However, as constructed, they developed it with the road infrastructure and the utility infrastructure to have that back property line run on the same line as Old Bond Road, which resulted in a lot that's a little closer to the road. Part of the intent, though, goes into conditions 62, 63, and 65. Specifically, condition 65 requires a 15-foot perimeter buffer. The reason for these buffers is to protect the residential character and privacy of those residing within the dwelling units, as well as provide an aesthetic, appealing vista or area for folks on the neighboring properties to look at, as opposed to the backs of houses or a residential development. This particular consent agreement would authorize for a construction or a 15-foot landscaped easement on the back portion of lots 117 through lot 121. This is what's currently out there. As I mentioned, the lots 117 through lot 121 would be located here, and they would all have frontage, or the backs of them, I should say, would be on Old Bund Road here. As an example of the landscape that they're willing to put in, this is a photo of that subject location. Not only is it vegetation that's going to grow, it's kind of hard to see in this photo, but there's also crepe myrtle trees sitting on top of a landscape berm. That provides for an additional aesthetic as well as visual and noise barriers from the back of Old Bund Road. Specifically, the applicant is looking for a consent agreement as opposed to having to go back through the full quasi-judicial process to amend the special use permit for these lots to allow for the continuation, to allow for these lots to be platted with a 15-foot landscape easement located on the back property line of lots 117 through lot 121. It should be noted that this landscape easement and the text that's included with this would require that it be maintained by the homeowners association. That'd be the same situation if there was the 30-foot distance between the right-of-way for Old Bund Road and the back property lines. That would be designated as HOA land, and they would be responsible for maintaining that anyways. The only difference this has is it reduces the area for the landscaping and has it located as an easement on the back property lines. I am available if you have any questions. Otherwise, we do have a sample motion available.
Can you go back to that picture that you were just showing, that one slide?
This one?
No, the map,
This
that one.
Yes.
So you've got the right-of-way also and the 15 feet.
That's correct. This
So a
is
total of,
Yeah, this is the old location of Old Bund Road. This is the new location of Old Bund Road right here. And then you can just see this dotted line here. There's a 15-foot wide landscape easement, which will be maintained by the HOA. And this is to accommodate, the additional right-of-way that was dedicated was for sidewalks as well as a turn lane going into the development on that location.
so there's room on the other, next to the road. That's where all the sidewalk stuff.
There's, yeah, between the curb and the
And the
property
prop-
line will be the sidewalk, and then from the property line in 15 feet is where that landscaping will be.
Okay.
Are there any standards for what goes in there and how it's maintained?
Yes. When this was approved, it was recognized as a type A buffer, which specified the plant densities. It did not require a landscape berm. Let me go back to that photo. The planting here actually exceeds what is the minimum required for that type A. This bottom row here would not otherwise be required, but the berm itself is also above and beyond what would otherwise be required.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, two questions. This requirement will be on the deed for the property owner?
That's correct. It will be part of the plat. So when a person purchases it, they will receive in order to construct the house, they'll have the plat as part of their site plan for the house, and it'll show specifically requiring the 15-foot landscaped easement, and they'll be maintained by the HOA. So the property owners won't have to worry about that.
So the upkeep is the HOA responsibility.
That is
Okay.
correct.
And question 2, on the staff report, you said this error happened during a period of staff transition.
That is correct.
Is the staff member still here?
No.
Okay. I understand. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, what you want to do?
I make a motion that we approve the Barrington consent agreement.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve Barrington consent agreement. Other questions or discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. All right, administration board appointments.
This is board appointments for the planning board. We have one in-town vacancy with a 3-year term expiring on June 30th, 2023. We've received applicants from Gilbert Todd Jr., Del Beck, Damon Damphy, David Lowry, and we have 2 of the applicants here tonight who would like to speak, and I have 1 person who has submitted comments to be read.
Okay, you want to read the comments first?
Okay, this is from Gilbert Todd Jr. I live at 511 Shepherd School Road, right here in Zebulon. I've been in Zebulon all of my life. My family has been in this town for 100 years plus. I served 13 years in the United States Air Force Reserves. I've served the citizens of Wake County as a construction services supervisor with Wake County government since 2007. I also currently serve on the Board of Adjustment. Our little town of friendly people is growing at a rate that I've never seen before. I'd like to serve on the planning board to help ensure that the growth is handled well and appropriately managed. I believe that my familiarity with Zebulon, coupled with my experience with Wake County government, could be valuable to the planning board and the citizens of Zebulon. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, and the other 2, you want to call on them for me?
Sure. We've got Damon Damphy.
Okay. Hi. Please come forward and take the mic.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the board. I don't really know how this is supposed to go, if you have questions for me or if I can just give you a brief introductory of myself. But my name is Damon Damphy, and I am a proud North Carolinian by way of Michigan. So I've been here with my family for just over 2 years. And while I do not have a history on a planning board or anything like that, I do know what it means to serve, which I started out by serving in the United States Marine Corps right after high school. I also served as armor bearer to a pastor back in Michigan at the church that I was a part of. And I served on a committee at a steel factory that I used to work at to help implement, employees to keep them from going to the clinic, and there would be some form of, incentive or reward for not kind of phoning it in and going to the clinic. So I was a part of that, helping implement that. Most recently, I had the pleasure of working for the U.S. Census Bureau. So I was an enumerator, and I don't think any of you look familiar for when I had doors slammed in my face to say, I've already filled it out, I've done it online, leave me alone, but it was definitely a very enlightening experience to be about the town of Zebulon. And like I said, I love it here, And I also think, as far as my contributions, that I could just probably bring a new perspective to Zebulon, and to make people want to choose the town of Zebulon as their home, as me and my family have done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions at all? I didn't expect it, but thank you. All right.
We've got David Lowry.
Okay. Dave?
Good evening, members of the board. It's my pleasure to stand before you again, asking for another chance to serve on the planning committee, or planning board rather, sorry. My family settled in Weaver's Pond about a year and a half ago, and we've never felt more at home than we do now living here in Zebulon. My wife and I are very proud to raise our kids here, and we love what we're seeing in the progress that Zebulon has been making. And I want my chance, it's been my goal to be a part of that process and make this the best little town to live in for my family's future. So I really would appreciate the opportunity to serve on this board. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. All right. So we have one appointment with 4 applicants. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to appoint David Lowry to the planning board.
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. Welcome, Dave. All right. All right, next I have the added item, East Wake Education Foundation. Joe, do you want me to handle that, or you want to handle it? So it's up to you. I'll start, and maybe you can jump in if you need to. The East Wake Education Foundation, I was actually contacted by Linda Johnson, and they do, as a fundraiser every year, a golf ball drop. So people pay for a golf ball. Beverly, do you know how much it is? Is it $10?
$10.
$10 for a golf ball. And so from a raised platform, they'll drop those, and they'll have a golf hole on the ground, and the winning number wins.
That goes in, or the closest to the hole. The one that goes in, or the
Or
closest
closest,
to the hole.
right. But what's the prize?
$1,000.
$1,000, and then the rest of the money goes to the East Wake Education Foundation. For years, they actually, and if I get anything wrong, you help me here, okay. For years, they were doing it in Wendell, and she wanted to know if we could do it over here. Our Public Works Department does have a bucket truck, and said they could arrange to do the ball drop from a bucket truck. They would like to do it out front. Full disclosure, they would have to cut a golf hole, and they would do it professionally, just like it's done at the golf course, and then it would be put back in. But I want to be clear what all this will entail. The question before you is, are you in agreement with us to use our equipment, the truck, the bucket truck? And 2, are you okay with doing it in front of this building out somewhere on the front lawn? And Joe, did I miss anything?
Nope,
Okay, thank you. By the way, did you have a good vacation?
I did.
Good. All right, so that's the question. If y'all have any questions, I'll try to answer.
What's the associated cost with this besides I'm assuming overtime or time from the Public Works Department?
It would, yes, and that's a question for Joe.
Yeah, so I would, I'm going to look to Chris Ray a little bit, see if I can get a visual cue, but this would, the event lines up pretty well that we would be ending a shift And so we would not have to pull someone off of work. They would be ending a shift. It would be overtime. It sounds like the event would be done in about 30 minutes. So I'm thinking something on the lines of under $100, which is what we typically spend when we support other strategic plan grant award winners, such as Preservation Zebulon, when we open up this building for their event. So does that sound reasonable? So around $100.
Yeah, let me add that they are doing it with a very small crowd this year. So the reason they wanted to have it out front was they wanted this building to be the backdrop. But probably under 10 people would be there. So that
Yeah, they're
resonate
not-
with you?
It's
Beth?
going to be small.
Very small because of COVID, of course. So it would not be a throng of people out on the front yard. So, other questions? Need a motion to approve all this. Then.
Make a motion approve that we participate in the golf ball drop with East Wake Foundation to include the bucket truck, use of our property, and a worker.
Second.
Motion made and second. Other questions or discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. All right. Board comments. Start with you tonight. Larry.
A bit of good news here from the Triangle J Council of Government meeting held last week. We have some bad news with COVID and the economy, but some very good news out of the RTP. They're up to 310 companies on the 100-acre site, and 42% of those are in startup phase. So there is some massive business growth going on right down the road. And during the call, they also said the pandemic is causing people to work from home, and there's a good possibility we will have RTP workers in Zebulon in the future, because people can easily live here and work in RTP. And a future field trip, maybe for some of us, they're going to open up the box yard later this year. And for those of you who don't know what that is, they've taken 35 shipping containers and attached and configured them and actually opened up a small restaurant retail community that'll operate about 15 hours a day, and they encourage other towns in the area to consider box yards where you can bring in shipping containers and actually create a little commerce activity. So something we may want to consider in the future.
Okay.
But all good news.
It is. Thank you. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Annie?
I don't have any.
Beverly?
Nothing today, thank you.
Shannon?
I'd like to send a big thank you out to Robert Thompson, who was a civilian that assisted with an incident involving another motor vehicle that was recognized by the Zebulon Police Department for his heroic endeavor. And thank you. Thank you so very much for not being afraid to take action. I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, Shannon. Glenn?
I'd like to recognize Todd Roberts from Public Works on his 20 years with the town as an equipment operator. He's one of those kind of folks that he's not only good at his job, but he goes kind of out of his way to check on folks that are senior citizens to make sure that they're doing okay. And I always told him that every time I try to keep my yard clean, he was working me to death because he'd pick up the stuff faster than I could put it out there. But congratulations to him on his 20 years with the town. I also like to encourage all those who haven't voted, go out and vote tomorrow and exercise your right.
Thank you, Glenn. Took the word right out of my mouth. Go vote. That's all I had. Joe, manager's report.
Yeah, we had some good news to share last week, and we did a joint press release with Nightdale, not only to share that we both had some good news to share, but also in hopes that it would get picked up a little bit wider, and we also put it on our social media. Wake Weekly picked it up, but some others did not, so I'm just going to use this platform to share, and we'll have more details to share later. But Knightdale and Zebulon, North Carolina, October 28th, 2020. The town of Zebulon is proud to announce the selection of Knightdale Police Captain Jackie Boykin to serve as Zebulon's newest police chief. Chief Boykin served as Knightdale's Support Services Commander the last 6 years. She previously served 18 years with the Wilson Police Department, where she held numerous titles and positions. During her time in Wilson, Boykin also served on the County Planning Board and was an advocate for citizens with developmental disabilities. She earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from East Carolina University and a master's degree in public administration from North Carolina State University. Boykin is also a graduate of the 264th session of the FBI National Academy. Chief Boykin is slated to be privately sworn in and assume her new duties on November 16th, and the town of Zebulon will hold a public swearing-in ceremony at the regular board meeting December 7th, 2020. So while it'll be a public swearing-in, seating is limited here. We can only have 24 in the facility, but it will be at the time of your December regular meeting. That concludes my manager's report.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll wrap it up. We have a closed session as permitted by North Carolina General Statute 143.318.1A6 for the purpose of personnel discussion. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you.